So I was up at around 11, which means I didn't quite catch the cutoff. But I actually slept in a little because I went to bed a little early because I didn't want to start anything new. So today is a new day, and I will be focusing on archiving entirely today. But I just want to point out something. Um, I haven't said anything about these protesters at the Trump rallies. I wanted to see how it would develop because well, my initial thought was that these are things like that the Trump campaign is planting it, and I think that a lot of the protesters that you're seeing, like a lot of the whole routine where Trump does the get him out thing. I think that's a part of the campaign drama, right? So Trump is paying people to come in with signs, put up the signs, and then he says, these guys are protesters, get them out of here, and then the crowd cheers, right? It's designed to work the crowd up. It's a prop, and broadly speaking, it's fairly harmless. I don't see anything particularly horrible about that. As a crowd pleaser. Where it gets a little bit different is where it turns into kind of a his language may be a little bit loose, but I'm more concerned about the structurally violent policies of Hillary Clinton that are actually literally fascist policies than I am about some stupid things that somebody said that doesn't really seem to have the foresight of thinking through what he says before he says it. So it's the difference between somebody saying something stupid and actually really existing fascism, right? Um, and that's something that I probably will draw attention to repeatedly if it does turn out that it's Trump versus Clinton as it does appear that it's going to be. So there was that, okay, but I think that that's something that's very different than what we've been seeing happen over the last couple of days. Trump is claiming, this is organized. These guys are paid agitators. He's probably right. They're doing things like blocking, paths. They seem to be actually using the same tactics um, that what we would call. It's not just the black bloc protesters, but it's the broader agent provocateurs. Or at least that's what the left calls them, is agent provocateurs. The media calls them free trade protesters, and they show up at these free trade events and they smash things, and they make a mess, and they ruin the message. And pretty much everybody that's involved in the protesting aspect of it, like the ground roots part of it, is convinced that these are police officers. It's a tactic that you can actually trace back fairly far. It was invented by the German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. What you do is, if you want to discredit a political movement, you go and you send people out with weapons, and you get them to act violent, and then the broader population says, no, we can't support this because it's violent. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. It's history. Bismarck did it, look it up. And the tactics that they're using, it's not just that they're showing up and being goons, right? In fact, the tactics that they're using are very similar to the tactics that people on the left are used to seeing. So my guess is that they probably actually are the same people, and that is essentially what Trump is accusing them of. And it's cursory, but from what I can see, I'd say he's probably right. That these are the same agitators, the same agent provocateurs that you see show up at the anti-free trade protests, and maybe there's a little bit of logic in it, because that is what Trump's campaign is about. Trump's campaign is not really about Muslims. It's not really about, I mean, there's the wall thing, but it's not really about that. What Trump's campaign is really about is opposition to NAFTA, and opposing free trade, and reversing all of those decisions. So, is it surprising that you see the same agent provocateurs show up at the Trump rallies that you would see show up at a left-wing anti-trade rally? Really, it seems very consistent, doesn't it? So that's my take on what this is, and it's just a part of the whole thing that you're seeing. You're seeing they're pulling out every trick they got. They're throwing anonymous at them. They're throwing the agent provocateurs at them. The media is reacting. Even reliable, or supposedly reliable, left-leaning news sources are demonstrating their funding, in their rather specious reporting. And I'm not going to point any fingers at anybody, but it's not one or two sources. It's like you're seeing it, right? So this is perhaps a useful exercise in flushing out who it is that's really outside the box, and who it is that is just working for the bastards in anyways. Working up working people up to do what the establishment wants by pretending they're anti-establishment. It's not something new on the left either. It's very, very old hat. So that's kind of my, I haven't said it. I wanted to wait for it to develop a little bit, but that's my perception of what you're seeing, is that these protesters at the Trump rallies are exactly the same people. They're exactly the same agent provocateurs that show up at the at the FTAA meetings, at the WTO meetings. One and the same. They're exactly the same people, and it's with exactly the same goal, which is to break up an anti-free trade movement, which is going to make some people's heads spin. Because with all of the bullshit that Trump is pushing, I do agree with him on trade. And if he's stealing that movement, I mean, that movement is dead anyways, right? But if he's stealing that, then it's mirroring what you see happen in Europe, right? The anti-free trade movement in Europe it has swung inexorably to the right, right? It's never coming back, right? It's a reflection of the failure of the left. It's a reflection of the failure of education systems and all these kinds of things that you have to pair these things together. But in order to get a rise out of people, it's not just these trade policies suck. It's these trade policies suck, and we have to blame it on the people that may be slightly benefiting from it, right? So it's ugly politics, but it's perhaps necessary. Which is not to suggest you want to align yourself with this, or to absolve any of the Trump supporters of any responsibility, because I mean this is what an agent provocateur does, is they show up at a political rally and they try to start a fight, and then they blame it on the people that they attacked. That's the tactic they've been using at the free trade protests. See, it looks familiar to me because I've seen it 100 times. And if you're a leftist, you've seen it 100 times. There's nothing surprising about it. It's exactly what we've been seeing over and over again, over and over and over and over again. So it's very easy to understand it in that kind of, if you have the background of seeing it over and over again, right? The difference is that, and maybe it's a difference in perception, it's a difference in bias, is that the anti-free trade protesters are usually relatively good at not reacting, whereas the Trump protesters are just like, bring it on, right? You want to start a fight, let's fight. Let's have a big fight. I came here looking for a fight even. It's So it does. In maybe if you want to use this language, it's successfully drawing attention to what the agent provocateurs are trying to draw attention to. It's working with the Trump people in ways that it never worked with the anti-trade people, right? Um, and consequently, um, the attention, what it's drawing attention to is a valid concern. Um, like he is drawing together a lot of angry, violent people, and when you bring these state agents in and they light a match, I mean, who is it that's lighting a match? It's the state that's lighting the match, right? But to modify Hillary's language, let's think of it like this: instead of being in the case that it's Trump that's lighting the match, what Trump is doing is he's assembling the timber, is he's building the fire, he's putting all the wood in place, and then it's the state that's lighting the match. Um, and while um, again, if you've seen this over and over again, you know what you're looking at. Um, it is, on the other hand, reasonable to point out that okay, um, Trump is trying to start a fire, even if he's putting the wood together, right? But I mean, that's what politics are in democracy, right? I mean, what is fuel the burn about? It's a bad pun, but it's about starting a fire itself, right? So, um, the attention that's being drawn to the nature of of the assembly, which Trump supporters are free to engage within, is reasonable to be somewhat concerned about. A lot of angry people, a lot of angry white people, a lot of angry white dudes. Um, but what you're actually seeing here is the same tactic that the state has used over and over again. It's the agent provocateur. Um, they're cops sent to start a fight. Um, from what I can see, Trump is right in his accusation. Even if what you're seeing is reasonable to draw attention to in itself. So I'm not going to be jumping on this bandwagon that you're seeing here. It's a media hit attack, and frankly, despite not being particularly happy about Trump being a presidential candidate, um, I think that you should be very skeptical of the objectivity of any news that you get in the future from any source that parrots this line, which is very much the undercover cop line. It's the establishment line. As much, whatever that word means, it's applicable. That's what it's the CIA psyop establishment line. And when you see it thrown at you, you should be careful. Whether it's being thrown at you from a liberal news source that you thought you trusted, from the agent provocateurs on the ground, from a psyop like Anonymous, or from the mainstream media. It's the same line. And you should see it as that. And you should recognize it as what it is. And you should be careful of trusting people to throw that at you in the future. Should the left reevaluate its approach to Trump? Again, I'll never endorse him. I'll endorse non-voting, which is passive but equivalent. But the reality is that Trump is no less of a potential ally than Clinton. Or to state that a different way, Clinton is no more of a potential ally than Trump. It just depends on the issue. Maybe. I don't actually believe that Clinton is an advocate of anybody. Okay, not gay people, not black people. She's not very good on abortion, etc. She's really not an advocate of anybody. She works for the banks, and that's it. But you could make the argument that Clinton is better on those kinds of things, even though you should expect similar Supreme Court nominees to the ones you got from Obama. Maybe even a little to the right on certain things. for example, she has stated that she does support a constitutional amendment to restrict abortion. But you could make that argument anyways, and then make the argument that Trump is better on trade. The truth is that Trump is drawing attention to trade issues on the left in ways that Sanders or Stein never could. Okay? They never appeal to the kinds of people that Trump is appealing to. So he's raising awareness. Call him a useful idiot, even if you have to abuse the language. But if he can mainline opposition. Let me try that again. If he can mainline opposition to free trade, then he's doing the left a massive favor. And he is. Look at what he's doing. He's making opposition to free trade a populist issue again. And that's something the left should be looking at ways to take advantage of. So instead of falling into these divide and conquer lines and knee-jerking into conflict, why don't we go to the Trump rallies? Why don't we talk to these people? We can empathize on trade and then maybe talk a little about healthcare, a little about taxes. Start from the point of agreement and then try and build on it and try to convince them that, this issue might be really important to you, but, there's a better way. The smart approach is to try to co-opt this, okay, not to try and shut it down. Whether it's Sanders supporters or Stein supporters or whatever else, okay? They should be out there talking to people and trying to pull them out and trying to align them on the left. Think of it like this. Instead of thinking it like, he's got this big group of scary people and they should try to shut them down, think of it like this. He's doing us the favor of finding a way to get millions of people that are opposed to trade together in one place. Not all at the same time, but tens of thousands of people together in one place at the same time, all of whom are skeptical about NAFTA and the TPP. That's a massive favor to us. And instead of attacking him on things that are often trivial or spurious, why don't you try to take advantage of it, go to the rallies, talk to people, try to convert them, co-opt them, spin them, okay? It's the right way to do it. Not protesting with signs, yelling and screaming, but actual, discussion, engagement, talking. It's maybe a sad reflection that instead of, you've got these people and they agree on what's wrong with the world, but they're being, separated by race and gender and religion. It's a sad reflection, but if you can get some smart organizers out, you can get over that, and hopefully you can pull some of those people out. These are not conservatives, right? He's not building these giant rallies of Republicans. These are mostly independents. If you listen to him talk, he talks about how, people that are 45 years old and they've never voted before. And so a huge number of these people are out for grabs. Go for them. Right? He's pulling them out, whatever it is that he's doing, it's some, marketing, branding bullshit or whatever, right? But he's got them there. So go there and talk to them. And talk them into going somewhere else, right? He's done the heavy lifting. He's done the hard work. Now what we need to do is go in and, talk some sense into them, pull them out, realign them. That's how the left should be looking at this, instead of trying to, fight with them. Of course, that's the real left, right? If you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, you support all these trade agreements and all this other stuff, then, yeah, you would want to shut these people down because they're a threat to you. But if you're a leftist, if you're a Sanders supporter, a Stein supporter, or just an anarchist, or whatever, just whatever else on the left, um, this is an opportunity that we haven't seen in 40 years, and you may never see again in your lifetime. So instead of going at it with a shovel um, or just being afraid of it, you should be really doing everything you can to take advantage of it and try and get these people on the right side. Like I say, he's done the heavy lifting. He's pulled them away from their TV. He's got them out. Now let's take advantage of it. I don't live in your country, but I'm saying go out and do it.